Okay, this was strange. This is very strange, and it was something new. I felt a weird sensation of falling, more accurately swirling. My whole mind felt like it was being stretched out like some kind of sticky taffy, before being melted along thousands, upon thousands of tiny tubes and passageways, almost like veins through a body. It was like one of the worst fever dreams I could imagine, but given the state I was in, that wasn't a surprise. And all of a sudden, the vast network of feeling I felt I had been cast upon drew back inward and my mind settled as something shimmered around me. Instantly, I felt the sensation of hoofs moving under me. My hoofs. Only this was not me. It was like being in a memory orb, only I felt I was really here, experiencing whoever this was I was occupying as if I were really them and had been my whole life. I felt the long, lean and strong body, which seemed to, thankfully, belong to a mare. Even so, for all the strength I could feel surging through this mare's limbs, she moved with a slight grace, almost gliding across the mossy stone slabs that passed beneath her. The more I thought about the feeling of this mare's movements, the fluid placement of her hooves began the damp stone and the sensation of chilled, moist air around her, the more I felt I was really here and not a mare sleeping somewhere in the dark wasteland. The sensation of being in her mind was like nothing I'd ever experienced, and the more I could feel this pony's real being, the more I was slipping away. It was small at first, but as I sensed emotions and I was smelling a great purpose and promise dwelt within this pony's mind, the more my fears and doubts from the wasteland were swept away. Eventually, as the mare continued to walk along the long, overgrown tunnel she'd been traversing when I had invaded her mind, I caught a glimpse of her hooves. Then through her identity entered her mind as the last of my thoughts were mixed with hers. She was not some pony. She was some zebra. Mahef. Her name was Mahef, daughter of the Zundia and Zephyria, respected scion of the Yichjaji tribe. For some reason, Phil, I had to remember that as I walked down the dimly lit tunnel, shaking my head slightly as I felt the mind intruded upon by a nagging sensation. The motion caused a string of silver beads around my neck and chest, as well as a long silver cloak of scales over my back, to shift and jingle. The sounds captured the attention of the two other zebras that accompanied me down the moss-covered tunnel, and their ears rose tall. Both of them looked like a striped ghost in the gloom. Their silver-scaled robes and glowing orange markings were the only things that flashed against their striped coats as the occasional glow of a wall torch passed by us. The pair looked back, one female, one male, both my elders and both of them much more respected members of the tribe. They looked in each of their cold, calculative eyes, demanded I bow my head in respect, and in an instant that's exactly what I did. Both of the elders kept their powerfully intimidating and mysterious eyes on me for many long seconds, seeming to see far more than the eyes of any mortal should. Then the male elder, Zundia, looked back into the gloomy tunnel ahead, silver strands around his neck and forelegs chiming as he spoke to me without making eye contact. What is it that troubles you so, young Mahef? I sense a turbulence within your mind as we speak, which makes me wonder. Are you not proud to be walking the great path of your ancestors? He asked, his accented voice slow, yet impossibly imposing. I felt a wave of dread run through me, the likes of which I knew I should never have felt. The feeling was an insult to the very powers that have blessed me with such great power and a noble purpose. To show fear in the face of the elders was fully beyond that, or even the non-belief. And there was no way I could be compared to the blind zebras that squat and squirmed in the sunlit lands far above, away from the sights of their true masters. No, troubled I am not, my elder. I merely feel the presence of something encroaching upon my mind. Yet I assure you, in the light of your training and the glory of your divine guidance, such troubles will reside within my mind no longer, I admitted. Once again that blasphemous feeling seeped into me as I knew full well I was at least partially lying. Nevertheless, Elder Zundia nodded once, the silver strands that adorned his radial headdress shimmering like stars as he did so, as did the orange glow of his tattoos flickered. Then the zebra looked to the other elder walking outside knowingly. The second zebra glanced back at me. Good. This is not the place of our kind to show fear as we approach the truth and meaning of our lives. For to show fear, is to deny our very purpose. She, Elizaveta, told me. Even so, the hard glare she gave me with those terrifying, opposing eyes told me that I should know such things already. And who was I to deny her that fact? I'd been trained ever since I was no more than a little filly for this moment. The purpose of life was to teach the ultimate perfection. As soon I was supposed to do just that. I had been raised the same way as all my sisters have for countless generations before me. My mother and father were walking me down the long tunnel, taking me deep into the earth, to the place where my grand purpose would finally be fulfilled. Mother and father? I looked between the two zebras walking either side of me. I wish I could have called them that. Yeah, I knew such simple titles were far, far below them. To be considered such things was to show them the utmost respect and disgrace their ancient names. Still, part of me wished I could. See, part of me that still wished I could have met the rest of my family, and lived a true, loving life with them all. I hated those traitorous feelings. Even now, I knew Mother to be with the full yet again, and although I could not see it yet, I knew most of the tribe knew of the possibility of a new scion being formed within her, to bring them the light of truth once more. I wish I could have made my little sister to be your brother. If that were the case, then the new cult would have very little of a life, just as the order of the tribe dictated. Only daughter of the elders would be allowed to live and train, all in order to fulfill their final purpose and become a scion. Their whole life was led up to their penultimate sacrifice before her merging with the universe itself. I felt my head sag a little at that, fought to keep it high and proud as the dripping wet balls of moss and sagging vegetation on either side of me began to be broken by towering stone pillars. Each cool gray monument was slightly overgrown, yet beneath the intrusive vines and fern leaves, each one was engraved with a masterpiece of hoofwork that stretched far beyond wonder and awe. Carvings depicting the very star of time itself, clinging right up to the spawning of life beneath the great sun and moon, and blessing the great ones as their clawed hands stretched down from the heavens to imbue our mighty tribe with their unlimited power. The power of the stars themselves. My eyes caught on that last image, studying the carving of the whole world's worth of zebras standing tall beneath the grand flaming eye of the Great One, coiling tendrils and lion fire winding down the earth to bless them and scourge all who would oppose them. The grand flaming eye was the mark of the tribe, the mark of the Ichaji, the Great One. Despite everything that was currently happening to me, that icon filled me with great sense of pride, to know that, of all the tribes created long ago, the Ichaji tribe had been chosen to be the true scions of the star's greatest spirits. It was an insult to imagine a world in which that divine decision had been different. To think of the wretched sun-dwelling zebras rolling around the dust and mud far above us. Ramani, Senkori, Atori, Aju, Yina Falls, Darkari. All the tribes foolishly thinking that they were in charge. Such a thing was to betray the very declaration of the world's masters themselves. Nevertheless, as I moved on, I saw the majestic carvings change to those that showed our future, where what the stars said would soon come now raged below the eye of our Great One. Stone images of zebras fighting hoof and hoof below the Creator's baleful gaze, chosen by the sun. The sun was weak and cowardly, afraid to do what must be done in order to make sure it survived. One day very soon, the stars would rise up against the sun and finally break free of its blinding and overwhelming light. On that day, the might of the stars would no longer be subjected to cowering in the night and flee from the light of the sun it rose each morning. That day of eternal night, the Ichi would no longer be forced to crawl beneath the earth either and would raise up from the darkness, finally reveal their existence and make sure all the tribes remember the ones who really gave them life. Then all zebras would see the truth in the grey eye of their master, where they would be devoured by the stars along with their purpose. That was a cryptic truth that had been hammered into my head since I was a foal, and it was the only thing I could believe. It was the only promise that could give me hope, and it allowed me to hold my head high as I trod right towards the place where I would finally be merged with the Great One as all my sisters had before me. It was an honor I could not deny or doubt, lest the master judged for me and my failure to believe that they would save us all from the world and deliver us to their haven. The Great One was the creator of all, Am I right that the creators had to doubt their master? It was like the tools of the hardy blacksmith or the sword of the mighty warrior turning and questioning the knowledge of their wielders or the purpose thereunto unto which they had been wielded. Such things were falling. As I thought that, the rows of pillars either side of us broke and the tunnel opened up into a massive overgrown chasm, the likes of which had dwarfed and all others I'd seen in my sequestered and controlled life. The cave was as deep as it was wide, and its vegetation-strewn walls were almost invisible in the gloom. Far below, a fiery orange light rippled upwards from deep within the earth and ahead. The same light radiated in a swirling storm of eldritch mist and lightning from the peak, the one grand structure to occupy the massive chasm. Upon a large pillar of rock within the center of the yawning pit, pyramid grew from the rock as if it were a natural extension of the earth, summoned up from the depths by the will of our master so that we might remember their ornaments as we walked the steps to meet them. The four sloping walls of the monolithic pyramid were covered in petrified stone statues of zebras. All of them were mirrors, and each busted with eyes closed, folded forelimbs, and tranquil expressions. They looked too peaceful compared to the angry-looking orange light that filled the great chamber and bathed them in its infernal glow. Nor were any of the stone zebras touched by the natural vegetation growth or marred by the constant drip of water which fell from above. The infernal-looking light seemed to scare away anything that might damage them, its omnipotent fury utterly terrifying the secret places of my heart. Once again I forced that blasphemous thought away from my mind. Then I saw something that distracted me entirely. Directly ahead, across the large stone bridge that spanned the pit between the tunnel and exit and the pyramid's many steps, I saw the most recent of the statues, and among them, I saw my own face. Unlike the others that have walked the steps before me, my face was still with open eyes and a vacant expression. I did not bear the peaceful look of all my sisters. That almost felt like an insult in itself. To stand here before them, yet not having my statue share the peace-filled and tranquil experience of those who had gone before me somehow felt irrelevant. Yet the more I thought about it, the more I could feel doubt creeping to my mind. The more I hated myself for the doubt plaguing me. Hatred seemed amplified in this chamber, as if the orange glow were the pure raw and intense emotion itself, and the hellish light grew brighter into my vision as anger boiled in me. Then my attention was stolen once again as Elder Zundia stepped forwards. From silver-scaled robes, he produced a long staff. The long rod of twisting wood shimmered as if it were covered by tiny specks of silver stars. The whole thing seemed to hum with a low note that made the orange glow flicker violently in my vision. At the highest tip of the staff, the wood uncoiled to a hand-like protrusion, each little finger ending in a sharp silver claw, as the metal seemed to grow from it like wicked thorns. Hovering between the twisting silver thicket was the icon of an 8-pointed star, made from the same kind of humming silver metal. Most eye-catching of it all was that it was set within the star's center. It was a fiery red gemstone that seemed to subdue the fire of the angry lead pit below with an even greater, indomitable will. I'd never seen this stat before, and the moment I looked into the light of that gem, I felt my blood run cold and my body become rigid. It was as if my veins had become filled with ice, and now that hard web of cold spanning through my entire body thrummed with pain. Elder Zundia looked right at me as my resolve finally broke, and my face contorted in agony. His dull eyes were filled with scorn and disappointment, as were the eyes of my mother as she moved up beside him and frowned at my weakness. I looked at them pleadingly as their judgmental glares I know for my whole life began to glow with that same orange light, and went wide as their mouths began to move and utter a language that I did not know. A strange alien tongue flowed from them in a visible trail of crackling orange mist, and I felt what I could only describe as lightning lance through the frigid chill which coursed through my body. Then, like a living liquid, the coldness that seized me in its paralyzing grip began to shift and move, even though I did not have any control over it. I opened my mouth to cry out in both pain and terror. The force which had taken hold of me continued to keep it clenched shut. The fear I'd shoved to the back of my mind for so long now threatened to overwhelm me as the eternal force controlled my body like a puppet. Moving at the will of the puppeteer, I began to walk stiffly towards the pyramid's many steps. I tried to fight against whatever force which was now controlling my body. It was as if my own form was not my own. The mystical force of dragging my body as I struggled to hold onto something and not be pulled up toward the peak of the pyramid. I tried to look like my tribe's elders, my parents. All I saw from them was the same odious glare which they always gave me. Only now that imperious attitude and passionate loathing was enhanced by the sneer of rage upon their faces. There's no way they'd help me. Those of whom who were too devoted to the teachings of their faith that I had been trained to follow obediently and unquestioningly, being prepared my whole life for this supposedly glorious moment. If they were right about all of this, then why was I so terrified? I've been told from the moment I could speak that this was my destiny, as had it been the destiny of every one of my sisters which had gone on before me. Had they been this afraid? Or had they remained faithful to the purpose of the Great One, and not sold to the power of the stars with fear and doubt? Regardless of all those thoughts racing through my terrifying and panicked mind, I unwillingly crossed the bridge's expanse and ascended the towering steps of the temple. I finally laid eyes upon what lay as a storm-shrouded peak. There was a grand chamber lined with intricately carved stone pillars and long tables. No zebra, not even the elders had been allowed to come up here in centuries. Only the Sikions, those who had been chosen to meet with the master, had ever had the luxury of seeing this great chamber. This was no luxury. The chamber was decrepit and covered dust. Food and drink lay scattered across the long banquet tables, aged and rotting. The markings of the wall showed the petrified images of equine bodies, as well as those being attacked by the fiery tendrils of the heavens and set alight with the eternal flames of the stars. Meanwhile, other etchings revealed zebras from other tribes succumbing to the same fate as those of the early etchings, as my tribe stood by and watched the souls of the unfortunate ones being dragged back up into the fiery awe of our master. Yet that was not the worst thing I saw. No, worst of all was the sheer number of zebra skeletons. Hundreds of zebra skeletons were strewn around the room, every one of which bore the tribal identification accoutrements of our tribe's silver-scaled cloaks and beaded bracelets of the Yichijaji, all of whom were lying in a pile of grey dust which seemed to glow with a faint orange hue. The countless dusty bodies, coupled with the presence of the ancient food, made it look like they'd all died at once, while they had been in the middle of some kind of festival or ritual. Moments later, my ears perked up at the hum as it filled the air. Yet the step brochures atop my skull could not swift or twitch like they naturally would. My frozen blood would not allow it. Even so, with the hum ringing in my mind, the sensation of rage only grew, continuing to build as I forced past the countless skeletons of the dead. Each painful tug upon my currently paralyzed body was a pull against which I attempted to resist, and the mysterious force enveloping me continued to drag me on, despite my attempts to resist. Then I saw something else which refocused my gaze away from the sight of the morbid and dusty graveyard, and the sights was such that it took away my will to fight my impending fate altogether. The hum of my ears manifested into a faint whisper, the eternal voice deep and ghostly as it spoke in the same rhythmic tone as the elders had when stealing control of my body. It seemed to grow like the hum did as I took what had captivated my attention. Before me, at the back of the room, built into the point of which all the walls met, was a great silver diamond of humming metal. Its surface was shaped to make the whole thing take on the form of a vertically standing diamond, and it gleamed and shimmered with an eerily pleasant radiance. The metal was like a far more polished version of the same silver I wore around my neck and across my back. Thin lines of glowing orange light broke up the silver surface, forming an eye-pleasing geometric pattern all along it, appearing very much like the tattoos etched into the body of my father. I know that light began to pulsate. Each beat appeared to be like that of a heart, and had accelerated its pulsating frequency as the thing hypnotized me. The light felt as if it were scorching my eyes, seeping right into my very soul, yet I could not look away. I felt the hungry emptiness in it, a vast pit that could never be filled, and the rage that reached out to every corner of the stairs. It was like a swarm of locusts that sought to devour all in its path. If such things are locust swarms were only ever a problem for the unfaithful surface-dwelling fools. I was faithful. I had been told that all my life and right now. In the face of void itself, I had to use that faith to shield myself from an overwhelming fear. The Grey One is the Master's all, the Protector, the Creator. Well, I could believe those things, but I feared would not allow it. Then with the slow motion of Mel, the center of the great pillar slid open as if it were molten fluid, seamlessly revealed a large sphere of fiery orange, and only eye of pure fire. Rings of Mel levitated around it as it brought forward to meet me, twitching and shifting as it focused on me with a more intense glow at its core. It looked almost like an iris looking right into me as if I was forced right towards it. I felt an urge to scream one last time before the dark voice in the air drowned out the hum, and I was pulled right into the fire of that infernal eye. Then I felt nothing but the emptiness as all sensation of my body was scorched away and incinerated by the otherworldly fury. I felt the vast and cold nothingness that this hunger had clawed its way across for an eternity in its never-ending quest to satisfy its unstable need to consume. It was impossible. A thing beyond imagination. It was me. I was it. It was the Creator, the Destroyer. It was the universe, the Great One, the Master of all. I became one with the dark voice and one with all things as my mind was blasted down along the vast currents of creation. Then, and only then, did I find peace in the instant's light. And all I saw through that blinding rage was the image of the statue I'd seen upon the pyramid's wall. My statue. Now, it was just as peaceful as all the rest. A light tugging ushered me back into the real world. I rubbed my eyes, feeling a cold shiver run through me, especially through my outstretched hoof. The sound of rainfall outside, coupled with the darkness, suggested I hadn't been asleep for too long, and at first I simply rolled over and tried to get back to sleep. The wires protruding out of from my pit bucket were finally caught my attention as they snagged around my hoof. My eyes opened up to see the blurred image of the room. Zenogina snoring met my ears, and I sat up and shook the mental figure from my head. Then my mind finally caught up with me, and I looked to my side to see. My eyes fell flat against my head. I swallowed a breath of air. Cherry wasn't there. I shot up. My crippled limb and churning guts disagreed with me as I did so. Looking about, I saw that her barding was also gone. The trailing ear plume of my pet buck appeared to be the only evidence she was here. Cherry! I cried, without care for who else might hear. The snoring was cut off abruptly as I shouted the name again, and Gina looked up sharply. The moment the griffin saw me awake and panicked, she shot to her feet and looked about swiftly. What the hell are you doing? She demanded, reaching for her own weapons and barding. I took little heed of the griffin as I looked about, shouting Cherry's name again. It took Gina dashing over and wrapped her claw about my muzzle to finally shut me up. Do you fucking want every raider in this Tartarus forsaken place to know we're here? She asked, and I kicked away from her, shaking away the dirty taste her claws had left in my muzzle. The griffin backpedaled slightly, asserting the situation cautiously as she scowled. She's gone. Cherry's gone! I exclaimed as panic seized my heart like an icy claw of death. The griffin looked about, then grimaced. You know, if all her brainless, that little mare is going to get us both killed, she growled sourly, earning a dangerous look from me. She raised both talons defensively as she added, I'm saying your mare friend's kind of... She's not stupid, and she most certainly is not my mare friend, she snapped angrily, and she sat back some more, surprised at my very vocal vehemence. All I did was give a low-volume growl and felt my rump, my guts roiling uncomfortably within me as I did so. I looked about for any sign as where she may have gone or anything that suggested my fears were valid. My ears twitched as relative sound found us. Something caught my senses as I looked down. A voice was coming from the ear plume of my pitbuck, and immediately I put them on. We need help! Message repeats. Hello. Hello, is anybody out here? We need help urgently. We managed to escape the caravan when it was attacked. We made it into a ruined warehouse just east of the city Bronco, I think. If there's anybody out there, we have a foal with us and my friend is hurt. Gosses, I know this is an awful idea. If you can hear this, we need help. Message repeats. Hello, is there anybody out there? The sound of distressed mare filled my ears and then fell flat against my head as my blood ran cold. I pulled the device from my ears and levitated my helmet back on as Sheena looked at me with confusion. Well, you know where she's gone? She asked me. I felt a shiver run through me because I felt the same way. Me. A far younger me would have done what I knew Cherry had done. And now? She's gone after whoever aired that message. I say it simply, mentally berating myself for letting her listen to my Petbuck's radio in the first place. She didn't look just as shocked as I did as she opened her beak and then closed it several times. Likely I lost for words. But in truth, I wasn't shocked. I was terrified. Terrified of the biggest mistake I'd made since entering this goddess's forsaken wasteland. Once again, the rain and wind lashed at my body as I galloped through the small alleyways, leaping over wreckage and ruined panels alike despite my body's aching protests. Without her rings, Gina struggled to keep up with me, her greater size causing the obstacles to be more troublesome for her to traverse. My eyes scorned the wreckage buildings from inside of the Royal Bronco factory, which had been mentioned in the emergency broadcast recording. I finally found one across a collapsed courtyard, the looks of which had been mostly consumed by a large sinkhole that now bubbled with filthy water. Sneaking around the edge of the gargling pit as fast as I could, I was finally stopped as a loud gunshot rang out, my heart almost leaping to my mouth as it did so. I froze, when seeing by the crumpled limb gave me a painful reminder of its condition. My churning guts still felt like they were running as fast as they could. Gina crept up beside me, one of her weapons held in the talon, and her sharp eyes scorned the rain-swept gloom for the shot's source. I trod carefully forwards, my eyes and ears both set to scouring the ruins. Gunfire shot out again, and this time it was far closer than I liked. Sounds close by. Gina's words were cut off as a bullet struck my side. The impact sent me sprawling into the sludge, my crumpled limb giving as the force of the shot was likely redistributed over the rest of my dragon scale armor. Somewhere above me, the griffin growled, firing back at our enemy as several more rounds struck the flooded asphalt around us. I rolled back onto my hoofs. Gina appeared over me as I and scurried into the relative cover of a ruined wagon. What the fuck you shooting at? A grizzled voice asked ahead as both I and Gina appeared out of from the refuge of the wagon. I had to push several skeletons aside before finally managing to get a good view of what was going on out in the rain. My sense and respectable perspective was all gone. My failing visor struggled to outline the red silhouettes of two ponies outside the gloom. My Petbuck's new display did the same. Gosh, why hadn't I seen them on this new EFS? I really had to get more precise at using it. There was a bright flash against the building to their right, followed by an explosive boom. You telling me you didn't see that? Some fucker was shooting at bad guys. A small radar mirror counter as she turned to a larger buck. Probably just some of the other boys looking for the same price as us. Rage must begin to them if they're trying to mess with us. But you don't go firing unless you know for sure what you're shooting at, you fool. You gotta get these slaves back without the Brazens or any other fuckers out here knowing, or they'll take them for themselves. Precious voice. They have a larger buck responded angrily as the third pony, with a smaller, swaggier frame, placed something against the wall. What's that? That's some pretty explosive stuff for raiders? Gina observed, peering through the rusted hole beside me and nodding to what they were sticking to the wall. I narrowed my eyes, my vision struggling to make out clear shapes of the gloom. I think they're trying to breach the building. Those ponies from the message must be held up inside or something. I responded, looking up to see large chimneys and rusted smoke funnels behind the massive sign. Come on, Tack. I just want to get these ponies out of there before morning. I've not had any good meat in over 2 days, and I sure as hell don't want any of the other boys getting their hooves on them if they are looking here looking too. One of the raiders, the largest of the bugs, growled impatiently. The smaller Yukon mare beside him laughed maniacally as she slapped his spiked rump. Yous ain't getting any meat. I was gonna have 'em all first. That was the deal. I was get some of the rage cure and then get you out here past the bridge and yous give me some first pickings on all the flank. She reminded the larger pony confidently. He merely snorted before growling. Gina fidgeted uneasily beside me, and a word spinning in my head described the situation I couldn't imagine she was too happy with, despite what her occupation was. Good. At least she wasn't a completely heartless type of merc then, my mind observed. She pressed herself against the wagon's inner wall, taking full advantage of the cover it provided. I paused, rolling back from the rusted window and looked at her. If your friend's stuck in there too. Oh, reckon you can take the big one with your energy gun? She asked, motioning to the array of energy weapons strapped to my barding. I tensed at the idea. The plethora of aches, pains, and agonizing discoveries inside me, all telling me I was in no state to fight. Yet determination was burning through my fear and the pain within me. Yet because I cared what happened to Cherry, I chose to fight for her. I levitated on my saddle blaster. I'll get inside to find her. I had remembered the last factory I had infiltrated flashing through my mind. Gina nodded once as another boom heralded a savage cry from the raiders, and the wall disappeared in a cloud of rubble and falling water. Before I could react, the griffin was gone in a blur, and gunfire filled the air just beyond the wagon. Jumping out from the cover, I sent several blasts of energy at the group, yet they had the sense to jump behind the mound of rubble by the door. Clearly at least one of them had been confident enough that we were not a rival group of raiders that could be easily scared off by a few shots. Gina darted to the side, moving fast even without her rings, and peppered the group with her lone pistol. In a brief moment of distraction, I crept as close as I could, then laid into the group with all the firepower at my disposal. Unfortunately, there was more than just 3 raiders, and while I made short work of the scrawny bug planting explosives on the wall, several more raiders, including the large bug and angry mare that had managed to escape inside. I glanced at Gina as she began battling a few raiders they brought with them and darted for the hole. She was a griffin merc. She could deal with a few scrawny raiders. The rain across my back stopped as I made my way inside, rifle raised and dripping wet. I needed time to collect myself, and the contrast hammering of the rain wasn't helping. I needed to find Cherry before it was too late, and rounding a corner, I slammed face first into the side of some pony, the force knocking us both to the floor. I recovered first and pointed my blaster down at them as they screamed at my hoofs, only for them to curl up into a tight ball. Cherry! I exclaimed in shock, pulling the weapon away. A wave of relief, confusion, and rage poured over me, the latter instantly taking precedence in my panic mind. What in Equestria were you thinking? I demanded angrily, then fell to my room, a cold contrary sending a chill up through me as my haunches hit it. Cherry opened one eye timidly, glancing up at me, then muttered my name as she realized who it was she just ran right into. Who else would come after you? I asked, peering down at her, glad warmness taking the place of fear and anger as I heard her voice. There's somebody in here. They need my help. I heard on your pit bug and thought what you just said. I thought I could. She began to stammer frantically. I stood up and looked into what appeared to be a manufacturing floor of robots, filled with conveyor belts and suspended catwalks. Gosh, this is how I love those. I shook my head, swallowing the sickly feeling swimming in my guts as my injured limbs began to throb with overexhaustion. Cherry, you just ran off into a raider-infested city. You horse apple head. Cherry, I understand you wanting to save ponies. I really do. But you can't go galloping off and playing the Lone Ranger out here. You didn't wake us up and ask for our help. You didn't consult us on land layouts, potential choke points, and bottleneck spots, entry and exit points, or even scope them out. This is the kind of stuff that gets ponies killed, I replied sternly. Then my eyes widened as I realized just what I just said. That was when the cloud of gunfire sounded ahead. Before I could say anything, she took off in the direction of the shots being fired. goddesses, I really hope she was too caught up in her save some pony quest to register the words that had just left my muzzle, I mentally remarked. Even in the unlikely event that she hadn't heard me, I certainly had, and the sudden outburst had all but proved how I felt and where I stood morally. Maybe my doubts were right. Maybe it was not the good pony I thought I'd always been. Taking off after Cherry as fast as my aching body would allow, I passed several more along the production lines and factory floors, all bolstering silent robots. Fortunately, the brains with the craniums of these particular automations were not as sophisticated as they may have once been, and all sat resting away lifelessly on the floors they'd been manufactured on. Then was forced up and over on one of the production floors, and at that end the sound of metal catwalk under my hoofs. I was reminded just how much I hate factories. The gunfire ahead made me think about that twice, however, and made it clear that the Raider ponies had planned out for whatever resistance the ponies struck in here were putting up either. Coming up on the break in the metal walkway, I was forced to make a swift right into a metal tunnel that allowed the walkway to pass into the next factory chamber. I could see Cherry just ahead as I swiftly replaced the empty factory chambers I had been running through from one filled with the gunfire of a group of very pissed off raiders. Really, did every trip in the wasteland have to be this eventful? A bullet against my dragon scale head gave me a swift answer, and I quickly ducked back into the tunnel. Fuck! Get that door open! You got too much attention as it is. If the boss finds out about this, we'll all be dead, Raider Mayor declared, pushing a hoof against another pair of smaller raiders as they fought to plant more explosives to a metal door at the opposite end of the catwalk from us. Yo, get out there and deal with these fucking intruders. I don't care who they are, just get them alive for me now, she added, her loud voice straining for breath as she pointed a hoof in our direction, a motion in which the larger buck reluctantly followed. All the force of the pony, 3 times larger than me, he charged forward. I leapt up, firing several shots from my plasma rifle as the catwalk rattled under his thundering hoofs. His metal chest plate became a glowing red mess as one green blast struck it. His mane was singed to a crisp by another. Despite the shots, he tore the melted armor away with a sweep of his head and didn't stop. Then there was a flash behind me as a beam of crimson light fired upon the catwalk's support roof. Zap made swift work of the metal wire on the side of the bridge. The thin metal cord snapped with a sharp crack. The section of the catwalk listed heavily under the charging buck's weight as he was sent tumbling into the piles of sharp scrap below. There was a sharp splat and a heavy rattle, and a faint, wet wheezing piercing the rusted gloom below. I didn't look down, but I figured that the jagged pile of robotic parts had broken his fall so much, and it skewered him like the blaze on a metal tenderizer. But hey, at the least his fellow raider might appreciate the metaphor. There was another bang seconds later, this one followed by a sharp scream. In an instant, Cherry fell back, blood pouring across her face and darkening her mane as her forehoofs clenched the tired stump of her left ear tightly. Good job! The mare across the tilting catwalk mused, lifting a scope magnum at her side as an explosion tore away the door behind her, causing her ill-kept mane to dance like fire atop her head. I didn't care as I bolted across the tunnel to Cherry's side, lifting her on my forehoof as she clenched at her missing ear. Instinctively, I dropped my weapon while retrieving a healing potion and bandages from my bags as a raider mare fired violently, several of her shots striking my armored body. Damn it, why won't you die? She hissed as more bullets clattered from my draconic scales. Even with my reinforced guarding, the force of so many shots still hurt. I imagined it was doing far more than merely bruising as I felt pain flare on my left side. Cherry coughed weakly as she downed a healing potion. I attentively pulled her hose away from bloody ear as I tried to wrap a bandage around her into stump. Dragonfire, I'm sorry. I pressed a hoof to her lips, silencing her as I worked. A healing potion wasn't going to fix this. We need a restoration talisman, or Hydra to fix something like this. Even as she screamed, my mind was constantly telling me how minor of an injury this was to her. She lost her ear, and without help, she'd never have it back. But it could have been so much worse, and it still could. But every time I tried to think about it like that, the thought of the innocent mare I was trying to save being marked by scars and the torment of the wasteland, the more I just wanted to save her good looks. Fuck, we got tough fuckers out here. You two get the merchandise, I'll handle this. The mare across the collapsed catwalk growled as I heard the scurrying of hoofsteps disappear through the breached door behind her. Now why don't you mules come out here and play? Rage ain't made me too crazy, I promise, the mare called, cackling as I finished wrapping the bandage over Cherry's severed ear. I looked down at the pink mare in my forehoofs. She just looked pained, guilty, and regretful. Wait here, I instructed her in a firm tone of voice as I stood and walked down onto the catwalk. Good, the mare croaked gleefully, smiling at me with yellow teeth as she levitated up her small revolver. Number of targets, 1. Declared my flickering visor. My EFS was faster. Time froze strangely as I activated the spell. The swift blast of green light, the savage mare was not more than goo dripping from the grated catwalk floor. Now shoot my friends, you fucking bitch! I growled loudly as I looked for a way to restore the fallen catwalk and get across as more gunshots sounded in the distance. As much as I needed to help my friend, Jerry was right. These raiders were after somebody over there, and I wasn't going to sit here. I was not like that. I sure I wasn't. A struggle of magic, wonder glue, and welding spells later, and the walk was as close to perfect as it was after almost 2 centuries of rusting away in the old factory. The moment I was sure it was steady again, I trotted back to Cherry. She had managed to lean herself up against the tunnel wall, when I was still attentively feeling the blade and the damaged stump that had once been her left ear. A lifetime of experience of surviving the wasteland was telling me that this was her fault. That she'd been reckless, naive, and underestimated her opponents all while trying to prove herself. I rejected that judgmental thought. This was not her fault. I learned to listen to the radio. Could have kept my earblooms to myself. She'd done it all to try and help somebody that she didn't even know. I suspected I'd have done nothing in the same position. She'd done it to be a better pony, rather than me. The sound of another gunshot rang down the hall, and the side of Gina's head peering around the corner told me that the raiders outside were either dead or right behind her. The sound of a gunshot in the hall behind me, across the newly restored bridge, set out the rise, and I raised my weapon to the breached door. Jerry was in no state to fight any more than these fuckers, even the small ratty ones. I ain't killing anybody that even thought about laying a hoof on her. I was in such a state that my mind felt like someone took a giant con on the stick and turned my brain into mush, and my guts felt like they were being turned to soup in an industrial blender. I swallowed hard as I staggered forward, crumpled limb giving no respite now that my adrenaline, any Med-X I'd taken earlier, was wearing off. There was another gunshot ahead and a cackling scream. I heard the light tapping up hoofsteps as Sherry fought to stand beside me. Her shoulders vibrating the platform almost as much as the heavy hooves of the charging raider bug had not long ago. Another swift gunshot had me rethinking my course of action. I just stood there, in the middle of the weak catwalk. Goddesses! I knew I'd come to regret my lack of tactical understanding of my terrain and firing at least once a day from now on. That was the Wasteland's turn to give me a royal fuck you. I cried out as a bullet struck the same hoof that had been plaguing me with agony for the past day. Then I fell to the cold, metal catwalk with a solid thud as warm blood spurted from my injured limb. I glanced up into the breached doorway to see my attacker, only to freeze with shock as Sherry called out something. The young earth pony cold turned from red to green in my visor as the display died and flickered out, leaving only that of my newly restored pip-buck. Then the cold, bruised, and battered form staggered back the way he'd come as fast as his little legs could carry him. Fuck you too, Wasteland. I coughed weakly as I saw Cherry struggling to walk over to me and Gina finally appeared near my collapsed body. Now it was my turn to be sorry, but in spite of whatever personal desires for self-recrimination and self-loathing, I see my vision darkening and unconsciousness asserting its grip over me. Footnote, level up. New perk added. Zebreak and Perception. Whether as a result of your time exposed to all the Wasteland's dangers or simply madness, you've gone somehow glimpsed into the life of another zebra, you gain +1 to Perception.